Across the APIs, Salesforce UI API, it can power your own user interface. Welcome to Salesforce Across the APIs. Today we're diving into the Salesforce UI API. It's a really powerful API Salesforce has, which allows you to tap into the data as though the Salesforce UI was getting to it. So it's grabbing a lot of details with user permissions, related lists. You can tap into almost the full gambit and pretty much put on your own Salesforce skin in front of it. So we're just going to walk through just a few of the capabilities of the Salesforce UI API. So if we start with the specification for Salesforce APIs, it's the Salesforce Docs APIs. We're going to scroll down, and there is a nice little API down here at the end called the User Interface API. So this is a really powerful one where you can use it to tap into just about every key piece of information that Salesforce's own UI has, and you can tap into that information and present it in your own way. So here we're going to be talking about the guides that gives you into the user interface, the features, the supported objects. So it's a really rich specification here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the capabilities. So here we are in Postman. We do have to authenticate. And then what I want to show you is a very straightforward UI. So here I am inside my Salesforce test account. And what I can do is I can grab the account ID. And what we've got is I'm going to go to the SteveTechArc, which is my sandbox. But we go to the API, UI API, record ID, and we can just paste in that record ID right here. And this is going to give us everything we need to render the UI. We're going to have layout states. Now it is a heavy payload. So this, you do need to be aware that you're getting larger payloads with these. This is not like the GraphQL where you can customize it. This gets a heavier payload, but it's giving you everything in the kitchen sink from here is my account and labels and fields and related lists. And so pretty much this is giving you all the data that you would have had you rendered this UI. And so you can read this data, rows, heading, created by, created dates, and you can actually use this to build your own user interface. So it's a little heavier than had you just retrieved the data through, let's say, the REST API or the GraphQL API, but it will give you a lot of other data in here that you potentially could use. I did get this back in 240 milliseconds, so it did come back quickly, but it is a large payload. And what we can do is we can double check this, and we can just look for the related contact of Bart. So I'm just going in here, and this should have this should just give us the entire definitions of the API. And it might be hidden in the related list. And you can see it's showing me my fields with my values, who's the created by, and it's giving me the details. So all the values that were on the screen, it even was at a regional airlines. So this is able to tap into and give me all the related data from the screen with a single query ID number. So that's very powerful. Now let's look at some of the other capabilities we can do. We could start getting information about the layout. So here I'm just sending it the UI API and layout for account. And this is going to give me details about the page layout. So I can study the generic page layout of the account. I could have gone back and seen the very specific API related to this fully loaded record page. Now what's also powerful is I can metadata. So here I'm pulling account metadata, and this is giving me a big graph of the metadata about the account. So this is a large amount of data with the metadata for the account, and I can switch that to opportunity and be pulling the opportunity data. Now, a key thing to remember is this is pulling back all the metadata. It is a heavier payload, though I did see, I'm seeing a response time of a quarter second. So it's good response time, heavier payload, and a full metadata download. Now you could even be driving some of the things such as user actions. And you can actually pull down the user actions. So I'm on a particular record. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a record. I can filter to the standard buttons and hit send. And this is going to give me, for a particular record, all of the available actions. So this gives me a lot of the power to find a particular action. And with this information, I can actually, through a different API, I can invoke these actions as though the buttons were pressed. So this gives me the power to be able to see all the possible capabilities, and it does respect the user permissions, field level security, record level security, because it is coming as though the user interface had displayed it. So what we've been looking at is we have the ability here to I've gone through the getting started, working through getting the records, getting a directory. You can even get batches of records. You can get values of pick lists, child records. So you can zoom in and focus in on specific elements of the user interface. What we're going to do is we're going to take one more look at creating an account. So if we look at, here is create or clone a record, and we can see that it's the UI app records, post, and it gives us the JSON for that particular statement. So I can come right in here and I have this records going to V59. And what I can do is I've set up this spec and I now have Steve Flowers, and I'm going to do a post statement. So now I have a post statement here, and we can go to accounts, and there's Steve's Flowers that we just created through Postman using the UI app. So it gives us the power to be able to essentially drive this entire user interface, but without actually going through Salesforce's user interface. So you can put your own API in front of it. This has a very rich, detailed spec from calling actions and photos and list views. It pretty much lets you see just about anything on the screen and drive it. There are limitations about what's supported objects, and you can dive in here and find the specifications. So if you have a business need to put your own user interface in front of Salesforce, but you don't want to have to be pulling all the myriad of details from different locations, you can tap into the UI API, pull that payload, and selectively choose where to place it on your own user interface. So you can power your own user interface using the Salesforce UI API. I think it's got a lot of great features, and I think on certain use cases, it could be very, very helpful. So thank you for joining your user interface. Join me again, same bat time, same bat channel. Subscribe to SteveTechArc.com or YouTube SteveTechArc. And I hope these are helping some people out there. Have a great day. Thank you.